communicating with me. I'm really tired of hearing from him. So you shouldn't want to hear that. And look for early wins. Identifying and solving a business problem that is quick and dramatic impact early will show that you can listen and get things done. Make sure you do this as a team from listening to the inputs of your team. Maybe there's a long-standing employee frustration or issue, or an outdated work process. Maybe there's a project that you can easily fund or prioritize. So taking quick action demonstrates that you are connecting and learning. But most importantly, achieving an early win builds team momentum. It motivates people, and you can win goodwill you might need later if the going gets tough. But don't do it in a vacuum. Talk, communicate, listen, and get their ideas, and try and implement their ideas. This will build trust, and as we'll see later in this course, trust is huge. Okay, there are a few things I want to share as well of what you should not do. Here are the don'ts, some tips. Don't try to accomplish the work without first building relationships with the team. You've just been promoted. I know you have a lot on your plate, but be patient, speak with everyone individually and as a group, understand the issues, and understand the work that's on the table from their viewpoint. Don't assume that your team members understand how you or others work. Take the time to explain processes and your expectations. When they understand your expectations, that helps drive quality work towards your goals. Don't be afraid to communicate early on and repeatedly. You do not want your team to be unsure, lost or confused, or not listened to. What you don't want to hear from your team is, what is he doing? What does she think? You want to make sure that that's very clear about who you are and what you're trying to do. We covered the interconnection of successful leadership with effective communication, and we see how they go hand in hand. Now here are the coming attractions of this course. Lead and they will follow. In this module, we will discuss what it is to be a leader, such as how to build trust in your team and with your customers, interviewing new team members, building team skills, motivating your team, focusing the team on priorities and business goals, and developing best practices, processes, and standards for your team. Next will be Know Your ABCs. Of course, this is the writing module. This module will cover several written communication settings, such as presentations and their content, forms of written communication with your customers, writing meeting agendas, writing meeting notes, communicating meeting notes, writing professional emails, writing professional status reports, writing interview questions, and other settings where leaders need clear and concise writing skills. The last module, Let's Talk. This module will focus on the verbal communications and also that interpersonal aspect of verbal communication, such as body language, class, style, finesse, personality, humor, confidence. So this module will really be the touchy-feely module, if you will. Okay, let's summarize what we've discussed in this module. Here is the module summary. This module covered the fundamentals of why leadership and communication skills are so critical to your professional growth, to your employer, to your customer, and of course, to your new team. We also dug deeper into the linkage and interconnection between leadership and communication, and that you just cannot have one without the other. We emphasize the importance of improving both of these skills, leadership and communication, to improve your career opportunities, your personal growth, and your ability to mentor and grow your team. Lastly, we revisited the course scenario where you have been promoted or assigned as the new team leader and what your first steps should be. We set the stage for the remaining modules on leadership and written and verbal communication skills. Okay, now let's see in the next module how if you know how to lead right, they will, in fact, follow. Hello, I'm Michael Krasowski from Pluralsight. I will be presenting the module Lead and They Will Follow in the course Leadership and Communication Skills for Software Engineers. Now let's first start with this great leadership quote. Leadership is the art of getting someone else to do something you want done because he or she wants to do it. Dwight D. Eisenhower. And how do you think that happens? By magic? By brute force? No, but through effective and successful leadership and communication. Dwight Eisenhower showed his great talents for leadership and diplomacy. He had to deal successfully and skillfully with his superiors, his peers, and subordinates, just as you will. And he had to deal with people such as Roosevelt, Patton, Winston Churchill, Montgomery, Charles de Gaulle, and even Stalin. I mean, that's a pretty diverse group of guys. The point being is that your team will have diversity of thought, diversity of background, diversity of experience, diversity of the ability to communicate. Keyword here, diversity, and how you're going to have to pull it all together. Your challenge as a new team leader is to lead your team towards a common set of goals, accomplish results, and quite frankly, everyone should feel pretty good about themselves and the team when it's all done. And if that happens, well, that's just darn good leadership. Now here's the overview of this module. What does leadership mean? Not only to you, but to other leaders. This is an interesting discussion that compares what you think leadership is versus what other leaders think leadership is. Next, what we need from our leaders. Here, we will cover the main attributes of leadership that are essential for your success. Qualities of great leaders. We will talk about how compassion, stability, hope, and of course, trust are key to you leading your new team. A leap of faith. We will discuss your transition from software engineer to leader and how the art of delegation is an essential tool to help in your evolution. And believe me, it is an evolution. From geeks to leaders. Next, we'll discuss the challenges of leading technical people, as well as ideas on how to have a team of leaders. Now that's a battlefield multiplier. Lastly, practical team management. As a leader, you need to provide your team with the appropriate tools and processes that enable you to be the best leader you can be and to enable your team to be not only productive, but fulfilled and satisfied under your leadership. Okay, let's get started with a textbook definition of leadership. Here is the basic definition of leadership. The action of leading a group of people or an organization to a common set of goals. Okay, in your new role as team leader, one of your main goals is to organize your team towards common tasks, priorities, and organizational goals. Now that's the what of your job. Leadership is the ability also to guide others into a direction or a decision that leaves them still feeling empowered and accomplished. Now this is how you're going to go about doing the what. That is, how you're going to guide, support, mentor, coach, and well, lead your team to their completion so that when the job's all done, the team feels good, feels satisfied in a job well done, and has a sense of accomplishment. That's very important aspects of leadership. Now let's see what leadership might mean to you. What does leadership mean? So let's first explore what leadership may mean to you, and then compare and contrast that to what leadership means to other leaders. I think that's an interesting approach. Let's see. Okay, I would like you to sit back for a moment, relax, and reflect on the questions I'm about to ask you. What thoughts or images come to your mind when you think of a leader? Maybe the president of your company, or of the United States, or a military hero like me, or a social activist. What qualities do you maybe the president of your company, or of the United States, or a military hero like me, or a social activist? What qualities do you want your leaders to display? Nice, friendly, strong, easy to understand and listen to, supportive, easy to respect. Other qualities? Which emotions do your leaders inspire within you? Do you feel proud to be led by this person? Do you feel excited, energized, happy, fulfilled? What do you want and need from a leader so you can feel successful and motivated? You may want them to be intelligent, supportive of others, a great listener and communicator. Now for me, I want to feel challenged and not disheartened. I want to be able to respect my leader, my boss. That's a biggie for me, respect. How about you? I think leadership means something different to each of us, as it should. We each have unique needs of what we want from a leader. We have different hot buttons or characteristics we want to see displayed by our leaders. So how you want to be treated by your leaders may be insightful as to how you want to treat others in your leadership role. This discussion was to help you understand that everyone may want something different from their leaders, and hence, keep that in mind when leading others. One size or approach to leadership does not fit all. And also, we have our own beliefs of how we will act or behave as a leader to others. But in general, the leadership attributes, qualities that we'll be discussing in this module, for the most of us, are what I believe we're all looking for, or at least a subset. Okay, now let's look at a couple of quotes by leaders and see how they answered those questions and describe leadership from their perspective as leaders. Here is what leadership means to David. Leadership is the collective action of everyone you influence, your behavior, your actions, and your words. These determine how you influence. Our job as leaders is to energize whatever marshals action within others. Okay, I like this quote, but let me point out a few key words. One is influence. Another, actions. And another, words. Okay, I've called out those three, and let's move on to the next quote. Here's another quote I like. Leadership is the ability to inspire motivation in others to move toward a desirable vision. While management is focused on tasks, leadership is focused on the person. All in all, the best leadership drives change and long-lasting motivation. So some key words here I'd like to point out from Josh's quote. The first, inspire motivation. The next, vision. Next, focused on the person, drives change and long-lasting motivation. So very important keywords also in this quote. Now what I'd like to do in the next slide is summarize the keywords from the previous quote and this quote to make a very good point. So what I did was gather up those keywords and boil them down into three different categories: connect, change, and motivate. Now let's see how I arrived at that conclusion. Okay, some of the keywords. Focused on the person, influence, and words. These are engaging, personal communicative terms. I tie those to connecting with others. Next, vision, actions, drive change. I tie these to change. Leaders, good ones anyway, are change agents without a doubt. Next, inspire motivation and long-lasting motivation. It is not just to motivate. Maybe you get a Starbucks gift card. That's nice, and that can be motivating for, what, maybe a day? But is it long-lasting? No, it is not. Long-lasting motivation is a very deep and complex emotion built up over a period of time and based on trust. Okay, more on that topic later. All right, so leaders need to connect with others, set a direction, and drive change through inspiring and motivating others. So as a new leader, during your first week on the job, I would like you to do the following. Sit down with a piece of paper and start jotting down some notes. How are you going to connect with your team? How are you going to implement change according to your organization's requirements? And how are you going to motivate your team to achieve those? That is your assignment. Now, on the next few slides, I will help you get there. Are you ready to play Follow the Leader? In the game, Follow the Leader, a leader is chosen first, then everyone lines up behind the leader. The leader then moves around or does something, and all the people have to mimic the leader's actions. Any person who fails to follow or do what the leader does is out of the game. In the business world, it is actually somewhat similar. You are typically chosen to be the leader by a senior management, and you might expect people to follow you. Well, we certainly hope so, but will they? Let's see. So why will they follow you? Great leadership involves many things that we will talk about, but first, I want to talk about why people or your team would even follow you. I suggest to you that if you give them what they need so that they can feel comfortable, confident, satisfied, and also that they believe in you, that you are there for them, they will follow you. So what do effective leaders give their teams to get them to follow? Well, what do followers actually want from their leaders? Okay, the following 4 key points of this discussion will provide you the platform you need to build the connection with your team that will enable and support change and motivate your team in a lasting way. The first is trust, the basis of all solid, well-functioning relationships. The ability to trust a leader is essential to cultivate followers. And the one requirement that successful leaders cannot afford to take for granted is trust. In a high-trust environment, not only is there less organizational chatter, but tasks get done more quickly with a lot less effort and time. So there are 3 critical factors to consider when determining how trustworthy someone is. First, a leader needs to deliver results in a quality manner. They need to follow through on business commitments and hold others accountable to their commitments. Second, a leader needs to demonstrate integrity. They need to behave in a consistent, reliable manner, be open with information, and walk the talk when it comes to ethics and values. Third, they need to show a concern for others and promote the well-being of their team members. When any one of these factors is missing, the equation may go to 0. How are you delivering on the 3 factors of trust? What would your team members say? Okay, the next point, compassion. People want leaders who care about them as people. According to a Gallup research, when 10,000 employees were asked what great leaders contributed to their lives, they said caring, friendship, happiness, and love. When people feel as if someone cares, not only are they more engaged and productive, they'll stay around longer, less turnover. Certainly something you want as a leader. Turnover is expensive. You must hire, train, integrate with the team, etc. What kind of environment are you creating in your company, your organization? How do you show your business colleagues that you care about them as people? Next is stability. People want security, strength, support, and peace of mind. Those are the words that were used on the surveys that Gallup conducted. People want some sense of stability in their work environment, which can be challenging for leaders to provide in tough economic times or tough or challenging times for your company or organization in particular. By providing a sense of security, the team will know you will lead them through and out of even the most troubling or turbulent times. Stability provides that foundation element to enable them to follow. How are you providing a sense of stability in your company or organization? What information are you sharing to give people confidence about the business, and how often are you sharing it? Next, hope. Finally, followers want to know that there's a future and a direction for how they see themselves in the team, the organization, and the company. The most engaged employees that Gallup surveyed were the ones that had faith in their leader's vision, generating both optimism as well as a higher level of productivity. Without hope, uncertainty and paralysis can set in, uneasiness. And if you're only working on the day-to-day, there's no time to create a bigger picture for your followers. So set and reset the vision and your action plans for change. All these are important: trust, compassion, stability, and hope. But to me, trust is really a biggie. It is the major foundation for connecting with other people. Now let's explore more ways leaders can instill trust in their team. Here are a few guidelines to think about so you can plan and implement building trust with your team. Have clear and consistent goals. Always know where you're going. Always know the big vision, the projects, and the daily tasks. I'll have more on that later. Be open, fair, and listen. This builds trust and shows compassion for your teammates. Be decisive. Wishy-washy is poor leadership. Would you want to see the President of the United States in a very serious situation say, "Gee, I don't know what we should do here"? No, you don't. Admit mistakes. This shows you are human, because you will make mistakes. And even if it is not your mistake per se, take one for the team. They are your team, your responsibility. This really builds trust. Respect the opinions of others. Always listen. Now, it doesn't mean you have to agree, but you do have to listen. Then be decisive and make a decision and explain your reasons on why you've chosen your path so that they won't feel like their opinion or their voice wasn't heard. Create a climate that allows empowerment. Give your team enough tools and decision-making freedom so they can feel empowered. When you don't feel empowered, you really don't feel like doing much or trying that hard typically. When you feel empowered, you feel like you can do anything. Now, you can't be robotic or stiff or just go through the motions of this checklist. You must be sincere, truly and genuinely sincere. Now, that's how leaders can build trust in you. Now, let's explore how you can promote team trust. How leaders build team trust, and in particular, trust among the team members themselves. First, support all team members, not just one or two. Otherwise, this could really change the dynamics of the team's productivity. Second, take responsibility for team actions. And part of that means taking responsibility for mistakes. So follow this guideline. When the team screws up, you take the hit. When the team hits the project out of the ballpark, you give them all the credit. You have just doubled the trust bank. Next, give credit to team members. Always reinforce a good job or even a good try, even if things don't work out the way you want. Everyone on the team may be at different levels of knowledge, skills, and what you expect of them. So understand that. Next, be sensitive to the team's needs. Sometimes you can tell when things just aren't right with someone. Maybe talk with them, but be sure it's done one-on-one in some privacy too. And find out how you can help. You never know what might be bothering someone. Next, create trust between team members. So not only is it important for your team to trust you, it is also imperative that your team trusts each other. Address issues directly. Share relevant information. Follow through on commitments. And give early notice when you can't. And say no when you mean no. And share what you know and what you don't know. And here's a tip. The first step in building trust is to display trust. Trust them. One way to do this is to make a generous interpretation when someone else makes a mistake or disappoints you in some way. People who always jump to the worst conclusion about others' competence and motivation inspire caution or suspicion, not trust. Give them the benefit of the doubt. Okay, now let's look at what qualities in general you will need to be a good leader. Here is my list of leadership qualities. But before I go over this list, I want you to think about each item I talk about and rate yourself on each item. Say 1 for not very much, and 2 for medium, and 3 for pretty good. It's just an informal rating, but I'd like to have you think about where you sit in these different qualities. For those items you rate low, that only means you have an area maybe to think about and improve upon. Okay, first in the list. Embrace and champion change. We discussed this in an earlier slide, that leaders drive change and are change agents. Do you like change? Change is typically not a natural attribute of most people, but is of leaders. Earn credibility across an organization. In order for you and your team to be successful, work hard to earn credibility. That is, you're honest, have integrity, always follow through with what you say and do. This will enable your team to be more productive in your organization and enable broader career opportunities within your company as well. Ability to build trust. We have already devoted a couple of slides on trust, so you already know how critical it is as a leadership quality. Strong negotiation skills. Most business interactions entail discussions and arriving at a consensus. Therefore, leaders must have the ability to communicate clearly and effectively to others during the discussions and negotiations. Case in point, Eisenhower, on my leading quote. Strategic planning skills. This is important since you will need to set a direction for your team, plan it, and execute it. People want to know, where are we going and how are we going to get there? Project and team management skills. Yes, leadership is paramount and essential, but you will still need basic and practical project and team management skills. I am devoting several slides to this topic later in this module. Strong communication and marketing skills. Certainly verbal and written skills are essential, and I have devoted the next 2 modules to those 2 skills. And what I mean by marketing is that you will need to ensure that management knows about your team, what it can do, its successes, and how your team's outcome has supported the business. This will result in your team receiving better projects to work on, maybe more resources, and certainly better career opportunities. Strong interpersonal skills. You want your team to feel that they can approach you, talk to you, and share important information with you. Okay, so how did you do? What is your score? Now, the score itself is not important, but instead, for any items you gave yourself a 1 on, or even maybe a 2, please take a moment, write down your personal plan to improve in those areas. All right, lastly, a key skill that I think can be overlooked but is very important is inclusion. That is the ability you have to make others feel included. In our busy world of backlogs and time crunches, we may tend to go to our go-to person or persons rather than approach our business challenges with a philosophy and foundation of inclusiveness. This is important, so I have devoted the next slide to the topic of inclusiveness that every leader needs to perform. A key leadership quality is inclusiveness. That is the ability to make people feel included, part of the team, a contributor. Remember when you were the new kid in school and realized you weren't in the in crowd? Or conversely, you noticed the new kid who wasn't in your in crowd. There is nothing worse than being ignored, unappreciated, or not listened to. Now let's fast forward from the schoolyard to the work environment. It is not just about letting people talk as you go around the room in a meeting, for example. Inclusion is about being open to perspectives different from your own and realizing that everyone's voice is important, and making everyone feel their voice is important. The minute someone does not feel included, they lose motivation and interest. In other words, they are not productive or happy. This is not good as a leader. You can set a good example by valuing each individual's opinions and making everyone feel comfortable sharing their points of view. Now again, you do not have to agree with their view or incorporate every opinion into a solution, but you must listen, thank them, and appreciate their inputs. As a leader, you will have to make hard choices and decisions while at the same time making people feel that their ideas are appreciated and they feel included. Okay, that's a tough act. Here's a tip. Believing that certain people are good at only certain things will keep you from fully leveraging your team's intellectual capital. Okay, note to self. When you feel included, you